Hey everyone, and I want to welcome you to episode 5 of my SatAM review series. Recently, as you know, the first 4 episodes I've done Heads or Tails, Supersonic, Sonic and Sally, and just recently Sonic Boom. And now I want to review an episode that a lot of people enjoy. It's one of the very emotional episodes of the first season, and it introduces us to a new character. And as a matter of fact, he's a part of Sonic's family, and that character is Uncle Chuck, otherwise known also as Sir Charles Hitchcock. Now, it isn't until the second season that we find out that Sonic's uncle was roboticized in the early stages of the coup-op by Robotnik. In fact, he was one of the first roboticized. Now, in this episode, what happens is that Sonic, Sally, Bunny, and Rhoda and Antoine are in Robotropolis, and they're looking for some roboticizer parts. And I guess you could say this kind of hints towards what happens in the second season, because as we know in the second season, they use these roboticizer parts and anything else they can find of Robotniks to make a de-roboticizer. So this is the first early staging hints of them doing that. Now, what happens in this episode is Sonic and Sally, before they meet up with the others, see that Uncle Chuck is going on this uh, tr- rail cart or this rail shuttle to a crystal mine. All right. And Sonic, being Sonic, is determined that this might be the only opportunity he has to get his Uncle Chuck back. So after meeting up with Rhoda, Antoine, and Bunny, they decide to take another rail cart or rail shuttle, to the mines, to go after Uncle Chuck. Now, just as all the other roboticized citizens, uh, you know, marched into the factory, Sonic is able to catch up to his uncle, but is kind of being backed off by his uncle because his uncle during this time is not himself. He's a robotic slave. He only knows that Sonic is the enemy, and that and if he sees him, he has to attack him. But to make a long story short, what happens is that along with Bunny and the others, they do capture Uncle Chuck, and by using the powers of the Power Ring that he invented, they are able to temporarily free his mind. Now, I want you to hold on to what I said there, temporarily. And the reason I say that is because throughout the episode, we see Uncle Chuck kind of holding his head, and we hear this sound. Basically, what it is it's Robotnik's robotization and mind control over Uncle Chuck, fighting and battling it out and overcoming the control and free will that was given by the Power Ring. But Uncle Chuck, basically, doing his free will, informs Sonic and the others that, there's something bigger and more important than, just getting him out of the city and back to Knothole. And what he shows them is that there's this big crystal that Robotnik has been mining, and that if he takes it out, he could destroy the whole ecosystem. So what happens is that they split up into two teams, into two different areas. One team is led by Sally, and team consists of herself, Rhoda, and Antoine, and they have to go to the control room. Now another team is led by Uncle Chuck, and this team consists of himself, his nephew Sonic, and Bunny Rabbit. And they basically have to shut down this whole mining situation from the bottom and basically use this machine of Robotnik's called a Dinobot. Now don't say no. Now believe me, it's not a Dinobot like you see in Transformers. It's a big old mining machine, is what it is. It's not no Grimlock or anything like that. Um, but anyway, both teams go to split up into the locations, and are able to shut down the mining facility from both areas. Now, just as they complete this mission and prevent Robotnik from taking this crystal out and destroying the ecosystem, just as they're about to leave, Uncle Chuck falls down to his knees and basically informs Sonic that what's been happening with him, in these kind of like these moments that he's having, is that it's the Robotnik's control. Is battling, is overcoming the free will that the Power Ring gave him. So he basically tells Sonic that, look, you did what we had to do. Ooh, now go. Just leave me. Just go. We did what we had to do. It's done. So he gives him the Power Ring, and just as he gives him the Power Ring, just automatically, almost after he gives him the Power Ring, and he's fighting, he reverts back. He reverts back to a mindless, freedom fighting, hating machine. And Sonic is basically dragged into the shuttle by Bunny, into the rail shuttle by Bunny. And at the end of the episode, we see a tear, which is one of the very few times we see Sonic cry, a tear coming from his eyes, saying that he vows to get his uncle back, no matter what. Now, the one thing I'd like to note about this episode is that it is a very emotional episode, because just as I said about with Sonic Boom, even though Sonic's uncle was already captured and roboticized and was a minion of Robotnik's, that even with the short temporary free will that he had, at the end he sacrificed himself. Instead of fighting off and trying to fight with all his might like he does in the second season to gain his free will over Robotnik's control, he gives it up by saying, look, we did what we had to do. I'm basically allowing you guys to go, because if you don't go right now, I'm going to revert back and I'm probably going to go after you guys. So he basically reverts. So basically, that's what he does. He sacrifices a possibility of regaining that free will on a permanent basis to allow his nephew and his friends to leave Robotropolis and get back to Knothole. Now, another thing I like about this episode, though, too, is it's the first time. It's one of the rare times that we see Sonic teaming up with someone other than Sally. I mean, we see Sally teaming up with Antron and Rhoda, which is pretty good because with the exception of Antron, her and Rhoda are technically savvy, so they can handle the situation in the computer room, in the control room. But Uncle Chuck, knowing this, doing his temporary free will, knows that he's going to need the speed and strength department on his side to help him with his end of the deal. So he takes Sonic and Bunny. And this is, like I said, this is one of the things I like about it, because it's one of the rare times, probably the only time, we see Sonic teaming with Bunny Rabbit. I mean, if you take Uncle Chuck out of the picture, it's just Sonic and Bunny. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool because, they're basically using what Uncle Chuck was wanted them for, and that's the speed and the strength to take care of that other end of the plan. But overall, it was a pretty good episode. I'm gonna give it basically a 9.5 out of 10. I know I should give it a 10 out of 10, but a 9.5 ain't that bad either, because it is real good. And it does give you a lot of hints in there of the season to come with SatAM, with the roboticizing parts and Uncle Chuck and everything. So it was a pretty good episode. I'm not going to deny that. And that's really all I could say about the Ultrasonic episode featuring Uncle Chuck. And I hope you tune in next time to episode 6 when I do special edition episode again. And this one is going to be a little bit more different. I'm going to be picking an episode out from the second season and doing it. Possibly. We'll see. So until next time, I'm Brian saying God bless and take care.